everybody. Hello, and welcome back to our YouTube live session. This is Pre-Read Shortcuts. Please, if you can hear me and you can see me, if you can see the lovely Ambassador Mohsin over there, if you can hear me clearly, please just type a yes, type a yes, type a yes. Thank you, all of you that are joining in tonight. This is going to be another sensational live session with Mohsin. A very important topic that we hold dear to our heart is today we'll be focusing on if you have any medical condition, say for example you're going to learning disabilities, then we need to see if you're getting enough support, and Mohsin will share his experience as well and probably give you some tips that may help you too. So like we always do at Pre-Read Shortcuts, we are here to help you, we are here to serve the community, and we have ambassadors coming on here to help you. So before we start, Mohsin, let me give a shout out to our lovely guests that are on here. We have John Culliver in the house. Big up to you, John. Thanks for turning up. We have Hadil. How are you, Hadil? Man, like Umar, the legend himself, Umar Majid is in the house. F. Cart in the house. Welcome. Kirit Shah. How are you, Kirit? Rim, how are you doing, Rim? Great to see all of you. And loads more are joining in. And today is going to be an open session. Sugjevin. Yes, Sugjevin. Sugjevin is always on here. What a determined, focused gentleman it is. This guy, Mohsin, is going to smash that exam. And he's going to be an absolutely fabulous pharmacist because he is dedicated. So, people, it's going to be a great evening. This man over here is taking his time out to come here, man like Mohsin, and he's going to share his experience with all of you. He's going to answer certain questions that you have. He's going to give you some advice. So really respect, and we're very grateful that he's given us his time here today. So thank you, Mohsin. Mohsin, how are you doing? You want to introduce yourself to the audience?
First and foremost, Marvin, thank you very much for having me on. I appreciate that. You and Umar, first and foremost, again, are just absolutely smashing it. So well done to you guys, and hats off to you all. To the audience, thank you so much for taking time out to listen to myself and Marvin for this. I'll do whatever I can to aid you guys in whatever help that you need. So first and foremost, my name is Mohsin. I am a pharmacy technician before I did my M.Pharm degree. I become a technician in 2014, worked as a tech for a while, then embarked on the M.Pharm course. I was studied at the University of Wolverhampton, did my 4 years there. However, unfortunately, I had to retake 1 year due to complications with obviously my health, which I can talk more about if you guys would like to hear. Then managed to complete my degree in 2020, sat and did my pre-reg exam in 2021, I believe. Again, I didn't know about pre-reg shortcuts at that point, which I should have, and I should have just joined them straight away. So, he's not paying me to say this, but all I'm saying is when I did join them, there was nothing but support left, right, and center from both guys, especially everyone on the Telegram group as well. We keep stressing enough over and over again that if you join us, we're not a community, we're a family, and it does go a long way. Any questions you have, you can always put it in the group chat. We'll help whatever we can. Clinical calculations, anything you guys need, just drop your messages on there. We'll be able to help with anything. So I fell short on calculations by potentially 8 to 10 marks. I passed the clinical, but again, it means nothing when you don't pass both papers. So for me, it was I was very devastated. I was in a spiral, went back and forth. So I didn't redo it in September. Then I went to pre-reg shortcuts. I learned everything what I can for pre-reg shortcuts. I then joined them, and I've been with them ever since joining them. And now I'm doing my exam in June with these guys as well. So hopefully we can, get everything together and smash it for all of us.
Great stuff, Mohsin. Thank you. It's so good to have you on as well. Really appreciate everything you've said. Thank you so much. So to everybody, the floor is open to you. Whatever questions you have, please ask Mohsin. I've got Kirit Shah in the house. Mohsin, Kirit says, I am a type 1 diabetic. She is on these medications. We also have a question from John Culliver, JC in the house. John is on the course, I think. John is on the course. I'm really looking forward to meet John. Top lad. So, John, hello, everyone. I was diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome in 2011. Can I request extra time? So, do you have any information on that, Mohsin?
Okay. First and foremost, did you get any extra time during your university period? If you did, then you will be able to apply using those circumstances for the GPHC exam. or if you had any extra time during your college or school, if any of this has happened and have been applied and you've been accepted to do extra time, the GPHC I think would be hesitant to say no. I think more time, if you've had it, you can provide the evidence, you should be fine. And like I say, if you don't ask, you don't get.
There
So
you go.
that's the best way I can only say. If you don't ask, you don't get. So if you ask and you get it, brilliant. If you ask and you don't get it, again, there's no harm in asking, because if you've had it, like you said, John, you've said yes, you should just present that evidence to the GPHC via their reasonable adjustments form. Put everything down. You will need to get it all cross-signed by a GP. Depending on how many conditions you have or anyone else has, if you have more than one, you have to fill out more than one form, which for myself was a bit more tedious because obviously I am dyslexic as well as diabetic, so I had to fill out two forms. The more conditions you have or the more learning disabilities that you have, the more forms you may need to fill out. But I had no issues. If you apply within the correct amount of time, they'll be able to get back to you at a reasonable time as well. I wouldn't leave it too late. I applied for my circumstances for my diabetes and dyslexia. I think 3 weeks before I was due to sit the exam. I had to get it cross-examined by two GPs. One GP did the dyslexia part, and the second GP did it for the diabetes part. So if you've been accepted in those times, you should be fine with the GPHC exam.
Oh, brilliant answer, John. I hope that helps. I really hope that helps. Great answer. I love what you said, Mohsin. Right? If you don't ask, you don't get. And I'll say, if you don't ask, you don't get. Ask and you'll get. If you don't get, then put an appeal. So it's
Speak
great.
to Payal. Speak to Payal about the appeals. She'll help you.
So let me ask you some questions, because you've mentioned you are dyslexic and also diabetic. So I think it's important that we, first of all, how do you feel, right, speaking from your experience, do you feel you've had enough support from, I don't know, pharmacy organizations as part of your foundation? And also all of you out there, if you have any medical condition, if you could please just answer that question. How do you feel about the support you're getting?
Okay, so in terms of university, I did get the support. During college, I also got the support. During my training year as a pre-registration pharmacist, I got support primarily from my organization themselves. So, I was able to, sit certain tests that we were going throughout the year. So my tutor would give me basically 10 or 15 questions weekly or fortnightly, and he would say, okay, look, you get your extra time, however, let's try to not utilize the full extra time. So he would say, if you need it, you take it. If you don't need it, do whatever you can. So I was getting tested weekly, fortnightly, clinically, as well as in for the calculations. But in terms of other organizations to help, apart from pre-reg shortcuts, I don't think there's much out there that will give you the support that you need. They may potentially give you the extra time that you need, fine. However, there's not an organization I've personally gone to that will help you on a one-to-one basis during your actual academic year or during your training year. That all unfortunately falls down onto yourself. The more training you have, the more notes you make, the more mocks that you do, you have to time yourself. You don't want to go into the GPHC exam, number one, flustered. Number two, get into the end point, which I did. I got to the end point of my end time on my final questions for both papers, clinical as well as calculations. So I couldn't go back and double check my answers. So me having the extra time benefited me, yes. However, it didn't benefit me to the extent where I could go back and look at each individual question. There is something, if I can mention, something called enhanced timing. Again, that's something that the GPHC can give. So you have your normal extra timing, and then you have something called an enhanced timing. That again, you need evidence to show for why you require the enhanced timing. So again, put everything through. Try to get the enhanced timing if you can. If you can't, no biggie. You get the extra time that you deserve, but utilize whatever you can to the best of your ability before the exam as well as during the exam.
Right. So Mohsin, what's your feeling about? Is the time enough? Because I don't know if you're dyslexic. I know you get the 30 minutes. How do you feel about that time generally? Is this time enough?
I don't think it's enough. I personally, because everyone's dyslexia is different. With me, my dyslexia wasn't reading. Well, it was reading. It wasn't writing. Sorry, per se. My working memory isn't the best, so I have to read something many times over before I understand what they're asking. So if I'm getting presented with a question like, for example, an infusion rate, um, that I don't understand, I won't get that question right. Personally, I won't. Reason being is that I don't have enough time to read the question over and over and over again to understand what they're asking me.
Yeah.
So if I misjudge one part of the question, I've lost it. I have to then retrack my steps back again. That may take me 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe even more, depending on what I don't understand. Other people who have, dyslexia, they may have quick working memory. They may not be able to write as quick or understand certain topics. So I think for me, I require the enhanced time, but I wasn't allowed it because I didn't have further evidence to show why I needed the enhanced timing. So that would me being I would need to go back to 2011 where I got my report done by a professor, a psychologist at college. Whether she still works there, whether they're still here or not, is
Right.
another ball game. Do you know what I mean? That's what the GPHC have said to me. If you require enhanced timing, we need the psychologist who's done your report in 2011 to guarantee you need it. Which I've explained to them I can't because I don't know where she is at this moment.
Wow.
So that's the problem I'm facing at the moment.
Yeah, which is a shame. It's a shame because I think you definitely have more support. And I was going to ask you, so in terms of your revision, because this is quite good. Thank you so much for mentioning this because it's important, even for us, Uma,
Yeah.
myself, because we always want to improve the course. And it's so important that we know that we also have students that are dyslexic. We take all of this into consideration, the way we teach. So in terms of your revision, how do you study? How do you study to help with dyslexia?
So in terms of dyslexia, how I do my revision is I listen first to what the lecturer is saying, or per se yourself and Uma. So I listen momentarily. I then write down what you've said on a piece of paper. So when I've wrote that down, I cover it and retest myself, and then think, okay, then I give my revision booklet or the book I'm using or the paper to a family member or a friend and say, cover it, ask me anything on what I've done on that page to re-jog my memory. That's what was my revision during my period anyway. And calculations, they would just randomly give us numbers and say, okay, this is what's happening. They write down on a piece of paper, and again, I'd go for it. And then if I make a mistake, I retrack on where I've done it step by step. So then I'll put it in the table. Step one is what I do. Step two is what I've done. Step three, okay, let's say I made a mistake on step three. Why have I made it on step three before I get to step 4 or 5 or the final step? Then I'll go back to step one, go through that thoroughly, like from the start to finish. Okay, I've got it right. Step two, same thing, thoroughly go through it. Step three, why have I made a mistake? Okay, I've understand I've missed out a bullet point, or I've wrote down the wrong number in my grid, but I'm using that as a formula. Okay, why have I made a mistake on there? Then okay, I've got the milligrams and milligrams mixed up, or I've got milliliters and milligrams mixed up. So my final answer would never have been correct because I've got that certain step mixed up. Then I'll go back to the question. It's long-winded for myself, obviously, because I'm dyslexic and so on and so forth. But then I would have to do it over and over again. Be like, okay, look, if this question ever come again in terms of a, a creatinine clearance, for example, let's say that formula is there. I have to memorize what the male one is and what the female one is. Yes, they give it in the exam, but if I already know in the top of my head, I gotta know what the male is and know what the female is. I save myself that time already. I'll jot it down quickly in the corner. This is what a male is. This is what a female is. So when I come to it, I'll know, okay, this is what jots in here. This is what jots in there. That's how my revision, I do mine. Everyone has their own form of revision. Like Amy mentioned as well. Some people
Yeah.
perfect their notes. Some people make it so dazzling and so, to the teeth where it's really good looking. But whether that helps you or not is up to yourself. If it does, perfect, do it 100%. I agree with Amy on that. But if it doesn't, you can have messy notes, but still have the knowledge up there to help persevere through what you need to. That's what I think anyway, with in terms of revision.
That's it's so insightful what you're saying, and to me, listening to it, because I'm trying also put myself as a tutor because I think there are many people out there that don't understand. They don't know. They've never worked with someone that is dyslexic, and I don't even know if we have that sort of training. So from your advice, what would you advise for tutors, even myself and Uma? What is the best way that will help you? So obviously you've mentioned that it's sort of individual, right? Everyone is different. So for you, what sort of advice would you, if a new tutor, what would you advise them if they had a trainee that was dyslexic? What sort of things can they do to help?
I would firstly say, Marvin, is listen. That's primary. The first point before anything, listen to the actual person. What would they feel as though they're struggling on? If they feel as though their weakness is clinical, you ask them where on the clinical side are you finding weakness on? Is it note writing? Is it learning? Is it trying to digest the information that you've wrote? Is there a certain way that you can write the notes for you to understand? Do you need a different color book? Do you need a different color pen? Do you need, a different, background in terms of for you to learn? Do you need some sound? There's a lot of ways for a dyslexic person to learn. Some people are kinetic; they have to do it over and over again. Some people are visual learners; they have to see over and over again. Some people are here; they hear what they need to do. They listen over and over again. So just listen to the actual person themselves. What do they feel as though they need help on? Then you take that and you make a little mind map. Okay, we've done this. What's the next part? We've done that. What's the next part? Then before you know it, you have a map which is of that mind of the person's mind. Okay, this is what they're struggling on. How can we improve on this? And then you get ideas from other people, other candidates who are dyslexic and who are not dyslexic. If people may find strong points in their revision, for example, let's say you or Uma like making colorful stuff, that may attract a different type of person. Okay, I'm dyslexic. I like the way they're doing it. So you've built a format for that person. Some people may say, I don't really, get on like that. I just like making loads of notes. Then you think, okay, look, we know someone who makes loads of notes. Can we buddy up with them? Can we partner them up with them so they learn off each other? And once you start enjoying your learning, you start retaining it a lot more easier. If you don't like what you're doing, you won't do anything. Same with working. If you don't enjoy working, you won't work to the fullest. You won't be able to be the best at what you do. So you have to first and foremost enjoy it. So when you find that thing that you like to do, you find your revision plan. Okay, I like doing this. It works for me. You then implement that in your revision. And then before you know it, you'll have your knowledge and you'll be testing anyone else. You'll be saying, okay, Marvin, do you know about this? Umar, do you know about this calculation? Do you know about that? Ambassador, do you know about this? And they'll be like, oh, okay, hold on. We don't know about this, but we're about to get into it. So that's what I think anyway, per se.
Wow, that's quite interesting. I like your jacket, by the way. Very
Thank
stylish.
you. Thank you.
I was gonna say it's quite good. Is there, because it sounds like definitely it's very good that you're giving that information, because we need to ask, and I think you need to listen first thing.
Yeah.
So I think if anyone's out there to support anyone that is dyslexic, is really find out from them. So are there any sites? Is there anywhere where you can learn more about dyslexia in terms of if you have to support someone that is dyslexic? Because Kivit has written, does Dyslexia UK have any suggestion to consider for yourself? So have you been on the site? Is there anything?
With that one, I haven't per se. I've only gone from what the GPHC have said, and my own cohort. Like I had university friends, so they were aware of my condition. So we bounced off each other in terms of revision notes and revision planning, and we would study together. So find a cohort if you personally can from your own team, so they understand you more than a stranger would, if that makes sense, because you're just going to be repeating yourself over and over again with that. In terms of Dyslexia UK, I haven't gone on their site. However, I will check it out after the webinar. And obviously, I'll inform, Marvin and Uma in terms of what they've said. It's no harm in trying. There's no harm in actually looking at it. Any more information you get, any extra information you get will be beneficial to yourself and others who may not know about it. So thank you for that. As such, I will look into it.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for that website, Kirit. Also, I don't feel speaking to you. I don't know how much help we get from the GPHC, but I know you had a horrible experience when you were about to sit your exam. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah. So this is not with this cohort at this moment. It was from last year. So when we were with Pearson View, they expected me to give my application 2 or 3 weeks before sitting the exam, which was done. But the GPHC didn't understand at that point we were in a pandemic. I couldn't get hold of GPs like a click of a finger now. Do you know what I mean? I would ring in the morning, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, when they would open up. No GP on site. Sorry, we can't sign your sheets over. So I would speak to the pharmacy, which was next door where I used to work. which I still do anyway as such. I would give them the sheets, say, look, if you see any GP, just grab them, give it to them, let them read it if you can. Again, they were on four eyes, looking around everywhere, still no GP in sight. A week went by, again, nothing. I was showing them emails as well. They would say, look, Mohsin, if we can help, we would. Can you send it over? I would send it over. But because they were primarily so busy during the COVID time and the COVID period, it was very hard for me to actually physically see a GP for them to assess the application as well as seeing that person, whether they would be, like they say, fit to sit. I think I emailed the GP many times, numerous amount of times, explained the situation. They weren't having it. They were like, look, it's your responsibility to speak to a GP. I explained to them, look, it's COVID. These are the issues I'm having. They weren't very supportive. Everyone has their own situation and their own scenarios. However, I didn't get much support at the start. When I finally managed to track one GP down, she said, look, because I know you for your diabetes, I can only co-sign for your diabetes, not your dyslexia. So then I said, okay, now what? They go, you have to go back to your psychologist. I explained the situation again to him. It's in 2011. I don't know where she is, how she's, I don't know her name, let alone her email. I don't know anything about it. So then she goes, okay, I've got another GP who is ready to read your report and co-sign it. So then I had to do that. I had to find a second GP. So they then went through my report, co-signed it. I sent it over to the GPHC. I believe a week said, I got a phone call a week before the exam. They said, look, because you need extra time and you're dyslexic, don't worry about your place. We'll, as a Pearson View, we'll sort it out. So I was like, cool, no problem. I'm chilling, no problem, no issue. Thinking to get the email, I'll be ready to see it. Primarily one day beforehand, I got an email from Pearson View as well as GPAC. Okay, blah blah blah. You're giving us your thing. However, there's an issue. So now I'm flustered. I'm thinking, an issue? What issue? They've told me that because of your application has been put in at the same time with someone else's, we've offered it to them before we offered it to yourself. So okay, I'm like, now what? They've got, you need to go to Manchester. Bear in mind, I'm in Birmingham. That's where I was born and bred. I was in Dale End. That's where my test center was. They said you got to Manchester now. So now I'm thinking, Manchester? A day before the exam.
A day before the exam?
Yeah.
Wow.
A day before the exam. So then I've got into a big hoo-ha with them, saying a day before then it's not going to work. It's not going to do it. I have to go to the Dale End View. I have to do it at Pearson View. I can't do it in Manchester. How do you expect me to do it in Manchester? And they said, look, obviously, that's unfortunately the only thing that you have going for you right now. You have to go to Manchester. So then I've kicked up a fuss, saying no. At that time, I was meant to be relaxed. I watched Marvin's video, like the inspiration, Mohsin, chill, guys, chill, don't worry about it. It's all good. So I'm meant to be relaxed. I was nowhere near relaxed. I then informed them that I will be going into Pearson View. I will be doing my exam in the faculty where you've said it, in that test center, in my occupied space. I can't. They said, look, if you go to the Dale and Pearson View, you may be rejected. Again, I was thinking I'd rather be rejected than not turn up at all, to travel then Manchester. I've gone in there. 15 minutes it took. You're not on the list. Your name's not here. Wow. You can't sit the exam. So obviously the back and forth that happened for 15 minutes, everyone was seated, everyone was nice. I was then informed by one of the colleagues there that you're holding people up. We may need to dismiss you. Again, I went having, I said, look, no, you need to speak to GPHC. It's not my problem. Then I had the manager come out. They said, look, we've been informed by GPHC that you can sit it. Okay, here you go. So then I thought 15 minutes, 20 minutes, fine. I was seated down. The second issue I had, Marvin, was my device. So because I'm on the Libra sensor and I have an insulin pump, I need to keep my mobile phone with me because that alerts me when my sugars rise or go too low. So I've sat down, I pulled my mobile phone out. I've had the whole people come knock my door. Knock, knock, knock. Open the door. You can't have your mobile phone out. So now I'm thinking, hold on, I've informed GPHC of this. I've told them I'm diabetic. I need to have my mobile phone out. It'll be on, vibrate. It'll make noise. That's why I needed a separate room. Then we're having again, Marvin, another 10 minutes, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Then the manager come again and say, look, we'll allow you to have it. But it's the GPHC that needs to notify. I go, that's between yourselves and GPHC. I've done whatever I could. They wanted to send me to Manchester. And then obviously they felt empathetic. They were sympathetic. They said, you know what? You're fine, Mohsin. Don't worry about it. you continue with the exam. But with that 15, 20 minutes, half an hour, that back and forth with them, where's your mind gonna go? So again, I was there at that time. I was thinking, contemplating, do I just, withdraw myself? But then I thought, no, I'm here. I've done studying for the past 4 weeks, 5 weeks, 6 weeks. Just let's go for it. And then obviously I went for it. At the end of the exam, I had the manager come out, apologize on her behalf that, it wasn't their fault. And I said, look, I understand. And, it's not your fault. However, I don't like the way that they had started generically anyway. So they had the back and forth with Pearson VUE, GPHC, back to Pearson VUE. Again, no one emailed me an apology. I didn't get anything from GPHC. I presented my appeal towards it anyway. Again, all I got was, we're sorry, and that's about it. There was nothing more to it. Like, look, we're empathetic towards it. We're sincerely sorry. We didn't get any of that. So just be aware that sometimes things can happen and things can take a toll on that person, especially if you have a condition or a learning disability.
Wow. That is, I can't believe you went through all of that, and you went through all of that, just started like a day before the exam, and on the day itself to go through all of that mentally.
Yeah.
That must have knocked you off completely, because I don't know if I'll be able to sit an exam after that. But I think it's nice. Thank you for sharing, because I think the message from this is anyone's got condition, you definitely need to make sure you get ready ahead. You get everything confirmed. You do all these processes, because as you're mentioning, it doesn't look like the GPHC really has those tools as much, or very aware or a lot of support there for you. So you have to be very prepared for the exam. So I've got a question here. How do you get study time during your pre-reg? I'm dyslexic. I don't get any study time, but I think the extra hour a day of study time would be so beneficial. So we've got someone that's dyslexic. She doesn't get any study time. Is that based on your employer? I don't know. How do you?
No, generically, you should get study time.
Okay.
As everyone has their own individual study time. I believe it was 4 or 5 hours. I believe you get. I think within the week, 4 or 5 hours. So you can speak to your employers. For myself, I had an hour a day. Some people take half a block, so they'll do like basically full day Monday, full day Tuesday, half a day on Wednesday, and the rest of the half they do for study, and they'll work Thursday and Friday. Depending on how your employers are with yourself, you shouldn't neglect your study day time. I can give you another example of what I did. I didn't take my study time at the start. I was like, yeah, I'm chilling, I'm working, I'm making money. But it's vital to take the time. It's very, very vital. You can take your annual leave towards the exam, but if you haven't covered even the basics at the start, you're back to square one. Time flies when you're studying. It might be boring, but time sincerely just rips through it. You're like, what? Tomorrow's the exam. Next week's the exam. The 2 weeks before the exam. And you're still, covering half the BNF. So it's very, very vital that you put your study time in, speak to your employer, explain to them, look, as a pre-registration, pharmacist, or as a trainee pharmacist, I need to do my study hours in, whether it's 1 hour a day or whether it's in a block. And when you have that block or that 1 hour a day, please do study. It might be tedious, it might be boring, but the hour flies. And if you're doing a 9 to 7, you're tired, you don't want to study when you come home. Some people have it in them, and I commodorate them, and I take my hat off to them. I give it to them. I could never do that. I used to work on 9 to 7. Sometimes I do 9 to 9s, 9 to 11s, but my study hours were brought into, maybe they'll give me a full day of study. So you have to study, you have to take time, you have to speak to them. And if your employer doesn't give it, reach out to GPHC. Explain to them, look, this is the issues I'm going through. Can we get past it? They then would give you better advice than I could ever do. Because like I said, I was entitled to what it is. And so are you. As a trainee pharmacist, as a pre-registration pharmacist, you are entitled to it. Marvin, I'm not sure if you can, give your input on it.
Yes, definitely. I know when I did my year as well, my pre-reg at the time, I was entitled to it. And there are many, many trainees that get study time. So you need to obviously look into that contract. I don't know if, I know that at the time when I did it, you were entitled to, and it was obviously the business discretion on to arrange what times you can have that, but you were entitled to that study time. So you need to make sure that you have that discussion definitely with your manager. If this is something you're entitled to, also look at your contract. It's probably even in your contract. look at that contract and make sure you get your time if the company wouldn't give you that time. I had a tough time. I remember when I was in my pre-reg, it was so busy. So many times I couldn't even get the time. But it wasn't because I wasn't entitled to, it's because the pharmacy just needed me and there's never enough staff. But make sure that you don't fall into that trap, because at the end of the day, if anything happens and you're unsuccessful in that exam, no one is going to be there for you. Right? Not even your tutor, they're going to put the blame on you. You should have done better. So make sure that if this is something you're entitled to, you get your study time. It's very important. Others are getting it, you should get it too. All right, great. We've got how do you apply? I'm guessing, how do you apply for the extra time?
If it's extra time,
I think
is it extra time? Or
I think that should be for extra time. Hackney,
okay.
what do you mean? How do you apply for what? If you just clarify, we'll come back to that question. Where in GPHC can you contact? So Hackney, when you say apply, what are you applying for? Extra time for the exam, or you talk about the medical condition? Right. SW says thank you for your advice. Hackney, just clarify. So I think Hackney's talking about the extra time for the exam.
Okay. So extra time, if you go on to where you have to register for your exam, which I believe is now out. Every cohort who is going to be sitting it, I believe it's on the 29th of June, if I'm not mistaken. That's when the exam date is for all of us who are sitting it in June. If you go onto that page, if you scroll down a bit, there's something called reasonable adjustments. It's a link. You click it and it'll take you to a form. You have to fill that form out, and it states on there where you have to submit it by. They won't take late submissions. Yeah, sorry, thank you. They won't take late submissions, so you have to get it done before they do it. I believe when I was doing mine, it was on midday Friday, so I had to do it prior to midday Friday. But they give you all the information on there. So if you have a look through that, if you read through that properly, it states on there. There's like a timing and date and everything. So you have to get everything done and ready and submitted way before then. So if there are any issues, you can still do it before that time, if that makes sense. So if you leave it too late, you send it and they have an issue with it, they still won't accept it, because obviously then you have to then put an appeal in. Again, then it longs out the process even more. So get it well in ahead of time, submit it, check up on it as well. You might think everything's fine, but if you don't check up on it, they may send it to you maybe a day or two before the actual cutoff date, where you're having an issue where there might be not a signature. They might ask for more evidence. So if you do it primarily well in time, a week or 2 weeks beforehand anyway, if there's any issues, you can come out of the day and you can fix them within that 2 weeks. So that's the advice I'd give.
Wow, very good advice. Is that good, Hackney? Let me know if is that good advice for you. Thank you, Mohsin. Thank you for that. So I've got so I guess this is probably going to be one of the answers you've given already. But Reem says, my legs are swollen and painful when sitting to study. I've been tested for DVT, but it was negative. It's affecting my study hours. If the doctor gives me a diuretic, then I don't know if I will get extra time. So I think that's something you have to check, right? Whether if she's given a diuretic, do you then get extra time for being prescribed a diuretic by your doctor related to DVT? So I guess
again, it depends on whether this DVT situation happen now recently, or was it during your university study period. And again, like I explained earlier on, if you have been given extra time due to that specific reason, then the GPHC will again ask for evidence against it. So they work on evidence as such anyway. If you have evidence to show and portray that you need extra time due to this reason, then it's very hesitant for them to say, no, we can't give it to you. Obviously, we all know what a diuretic does. You would need to take numerous amount of breaks if needed. Again, it all depends on whether you can get everything done. So she's mentioned like 4 months ago.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, again, a diuretic, we all know what it does. You may require frequent breaks.
Yeah.
Whether they give you extra time for that, again, the GPHC will know better. Again, I've said it before. If you don't ask, you don't get. I would compile a lot of evidence for that and send it off anyway. They may give it to you, but the one thing you may need to, even guys on here and girls who are applying for reasonable adjustments, with me, they didn't stop my timing. That's the problem that I was having. So the breaks that I was taking and the extra time, if I needed to go for, let's say, for example, a loo break, or even to test my blood sugars, they didn't stop the clock. So the clock was still running. So even if I had to go out, for example, water, or if I needed a toilet break, the clock was still running. They wouldn't stop it. That's what something you have to bear in mind with.
Wow.
So that
I'm hoping those are one of the reasons they've gotten rid of person view. I'm just hoping it's because of things like this and that they're doing that to give a better experience for all the.
I hope so.
I hope
I hope
so.
so, Marvin.
I hope so. But what about this question by Mary? What is the most hours you can get for your exam? Is it 50% extra time, or is the enhanced time more than 50? So what is the enhanced time? Because most of us know about 30 minutes. What is this enhanced time?
Yeah. So I think mine was 15 or 20% extra time, and then you can get more than the extra time, which is called the enhanced time, which can allow you up to several more percentage added
Okay.
onto that. But that you would need again a psychology report, or a report from the doctors for that extra enhanced time. So you'll get your extra time anyway because of your medical condition. But if you require more, they require more evidence to support why you require it. So it's just they work on evidence basis. So the more evidence you have, the more chance you can to get extra time as well as enhanced time. And if you do require enhanced time, your doctor, your GP, your psychologist, or whoever has done the report on yourself has to say as to why you require the enhanced time.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
So what sort of examples are the situations where you get enhanced time? I mean,
So
example.
with my one, when I had my psychology report done, it was only for extra time. So for me to be eligible or apply for the enhanced timing, I would need to go back to that psychologist, whatever said period, and they would need to write a new report and say, okay, my client here, or my patient here, or however they would say it, requires enhanced timing because of these reasons. And then they would implement that into like a report structure, and I would then present that to the GPHC. Or a GP can also do it as well. If you can find a GP who is able to give you another report as such, to say, okay, my patient here requires not just extra time but enhanced timing because of these reasons, then the GPHC will look into that as well. They won't just accept it as, okay, I'm dyslexic, I require extra time, I want the enhanced time. They won't give you any leeway in that. They won't give you any support in that. So you would need to get a fresh report done for an enhanced timing, not just an extra time.
I think one of the good things that you've pointed out, and just listening to you and everyone out there, is you definitely want to get things done early, because
Yeah.
it looks like it's not as straightforward. So the earlier you get all of this sorted, the better. I've got a comment there from, I'll struggle to pronounce that name, but that's a good comment. It says, if study time is not confirmed in your contract, so check your contract. But if it's not confirmed in your contract, the GPC will not get involved. They advised me to speak to my manager, nothing to do with the GPHC, which is a bit sad when you think about that, isn't it? Because is it, and that's what I was saying, I can't remember whether is it something that is required by the GPHC? Is that a requirement, a legal requirement that you have to have it? Or is it something that is stated as per your employer? Because if it's stated in the GPHC as per the employer, you're entitled to this, but then there is that little print saying depending on your employer, then they will always just send you back to that employer. But yeah, that's sad. That's sad. But I said many students get this time, and this time makes a big difference, massive difference. That extra time. Kivit says, "Can you see my comments?" I cannot see any comments from Kivit. The only comment I saw was that you were diabetic, and I've not seen any other comment, unfortunately. So if you want to type a comment, then I will be able to see that. Gardner says, thank you for this information. Mary's thanking you as well. JC J. Colivar says, I had a brain hemorrhage in 2016. Will that be taken into account? So I guess I could answer that question like what Mohsin has been saying. I think it's again to do with, as long as you have all the evidence, everything, you need to submit everything that you can, and it's obviously dealt on base to base issue, isn't a case to case issue. So I guess you obviously have to use that and get all that evidence, and you've got a point, you've got something there to put forward, And again, going back to, you spoke about university, and see if you had any of those things then you might have a higher chance of getting it now. So what would you advise Mohsin, JC, about this?
First and foremost, I hope you have recovered from that, and I wish you well in health. First and foremost, um, take things slow as well in terms of look after yourself health wise first. If you're mentally prepared and you mentally are able to sit the exam firstly, then do it. If you feel as though you can't, then don't worry about it. There's always the next try. Only when you're ready and you're capable and you can fit to sit, then do it. In terms of you know will that be taken into account? Yes, because it was something that happened to you physically. Um, and like Marvin and I have said previously as well, if you have evidence for that, present it to them. Put your case as strong as it possibly can be, so they can't find little ways to deny you of what you need. Um, and always fight for what you think is right and correct. If you have to appeal it, sorry, then please do appeal it. Keep sending it out. Only be considered as acceptance if you're happy with it yourself. Like I kept fighting with them back and forth until I got what I needed, because they are our regulatory body. They regulate us as pharmacists, as technicians, pharmacies. So for them, we have to work with them. They can't just demand what they think is correct. If you feel as though you need it, you fight for that. You get all the evidence in place and you send it across many times. Get GPs involved if you have to. Get whatever you need in terms of healthcare professionals involved to get what you deserve and what you need. If you use that for extra time and you've been getting it for that reason, have the evidence ready, John, and send it to the reasonable adjustments application form. Send everything to appeal it if needs be as well. So that's what I can advise.
Wow, that's great advice, John. We also have I know we have a someone that's recently qualified. So she just passed in what was it, recent exam, and she was part of the combo course as well, and she had a brain hemorrhage. So I know that. So perhaps that's someone that I could find out as well some information for you. But she had a brain hemorrhage, and she's just done the exam and she's passed the exam, so she may be able to share some of that advice for you. But great. So we can always support you. Part of the course. Let me know. You can message me, and I could try to contact her and get some information for you. So what have we got here? So I think Kirit is asking, are you type 1? And I'm guessing the other one's type 2. I guess, are you type 1 or
Yeah,
type?
I am type 1 diabetic.
And then she's got another question. When were you given the Libra reader and disc to check your blood glucose? And so can you take dextrose tablets and eat slow carb and recheck your blood glucose in 15 minutes time?
So I was diagnosed with diabetes in 2001. So I've had my fair share of ups and downs with it as well. Um, I got my Libra sensor and the insulin pump many years ago. I was the first person to be on like a trial with my consultants. So when I trialed it out, they said your sugars have improved dramatically, um, and we can offer you another sort of system to help check your blood sugar levels a lot more easier, which was the Libra sensor at that time. The only thing was, because you're given like a reader, you can either do it with the reader or do it off your mobile phone. So I thought there's no point in me carrying a reader with me if I have my mobile phone with me anyway. So I've now connected the Libra sensor to my phone. So you have to inform GPHC of that anyway, that you're taking a certain device into your exam. So I did let them know I'm taking my mobile phone in. There was no issues at that point. The issue only occurred when I got into the Pearson View, because GPHC didn't communicate with Pearson View to allow me to take my mobile phone in. Once that was sorted, they had no issues with it. They were happy. They go, at least put it on vibrate or silent, or if you want it on loud, you can. But because I was in a separate room, it was okay. I wasn't disturbing anyone else out there. Um, I was able to take food in as well, but the food was kept within the locker. In terms of because you had take dextrose tablets in, I was given like a liquid, which my GPs give to myself. It's fast acting glucose shots. Those I was allowed to take in with me. How they allow you to take the dextrose tablets in, again, I can't comment on that. I can only comment on what I was allowed to take in, which was a form of a glucose shot. I don't think there would be any problem with you taking the dextrose tablets in. And, slow carbs, again, would depend on whether the GPHC have allowed that. If they allow it, please let them notify the test center straight away which way you're going to, because you don't want to go through there and go through the same situation I went through in terms of explaining everything every 5 minutes to different people. And they would allow you to check your blood glucose every 15 minutes if needs be. But whether they stop the clock or not, again, I don't know how it's going to happen this cohort. But when I was doing mine with the Pearson View, they didn't stop the timing. So the every 5 minutes that I was taking, or every 10-minute break that I needed to check my blood glucose, the timer was still running.
Oh, right. Yeah, they definitely they should stop the time. I think they should stop the time. Let's we've got one here. Okay, so SW says, yeah, my study time isn't in my contract, which makes it a bit harder. Might have to speak to someone higher up about this because my supervisor doesn't give me any. So I guess that's true. So that will have to be a communication with you higher up in your company. And I'm a bit surprised if your supervisor is a pharmacist, for instance. I'm very surprised because as pharmacists, we all know the importance of you having that extra study time. So for another fellow pharmacist not to give you that time is a bit shocking. But yeah, I think that's a discussion you want to have with your employer and see what they can do. John says, thank you guys. So thanks. Yes, John, thank you. Sukhjevan is asking, why do you need 2 GPs involved for applying the forms? Was it 2 GPs? I thought you meant 2. If you have 2 different conditions, then you need 2 forms.
Yeah. So the reason why I needed 2 GPs was because I couldn't get in touch with my psychologist back in 2011. So I needed someone to verify that condition. That's why I needed a second GP involved. But if you have more than one condition, you have to have different forms. One GP can write out all the forms if needs be, if they have been under your care. Because I had one GP only deal with diabetes side, she could only co-sign for the diabetes.
Okay.
For the second time for the dyslexia, I needed to contact a psychologist back in 2011. Again, I had no information or contact information to contact her. So I then spoke to my GP saying, look, I can't contact anyone. Can anyone verify it? She goes, because when with GPs, because of your diabetes, I can co-sign. There's another GP who may be able to co-sign that report. That's why I needed the second GP involved to co-sign what the psychologist had mentioned in 2011.
Okay, brilliant. So that's fine. Sukhjev understands that. Fantastic. Another question from Kirit. Can use both, but when you use first, use the disk start with reader, then with the phone. Oh, I don't
The thing
understand.
is, yeah, the thing is with the reader, if you register that one reader with the with the Libra and the reader, I can't use my phone to do that because then I'll need to use another one, if that makes sense. I don't know if that's different with yourself or not. But I find it just easier using my mobile phone because it's always with me anyway. I know if I lost the reader, I've lost the reader and I would never lose my phone. Hopefully anyway, not. But yeah.
Wow, great stuff. So thank you so much. I think that was the last question. We're literally coming to the end of this session. It's been so insightful. It's been so helpful. Thank you so much, Mohsin. You've been so informative, giving us so much good information. And I think, and I know actually that this will benefit so many people. And even myself, I've learned so much. And it will also affect how even Omar, myself, move on with our trainings, because the many things we need to take into consideration. For someone that is dyslexic or has a medical condition, thank you so much for stressing the importance of doing things early, because the process doesn't look as straightforward. Also, it doesn't look like we can really rely on the GPHC, because they'll probably just get you to go back to your employers or to the center. So we're hoping that we've got a new trainees providers, well, test centers. So we don't know, we've not had them yet. So we don't know if they're better. But that should obviously make everyone alert. If you've got a medical condition, we don't know what these guys are like. So way in advance, start taking some action.
Yeah.
Have you got any final words for everyone?
Just
one question. Just one question.
Okay, yeah, go ahead.
JC. Will the GPHC accept that I'm being prescribed 30 milligrams daily when the BNF states that diazepam should be prescribed for 4 to 6 weeks? I don't know, but I suppose, I don't know. Obviously, I have to speak to GP. I suppose the GPHC will rely more on the doctor's report, right? So I'm guessing even if you're meant to take something for 4 to 6 weeks and the doctors decided to even give you a different dose or even longer, then I don't think the GPHC will question much as long as you have that document from your doctor. Right, so you definitely have to get all the evidence again and then
just stack them up. That's it. You got to stack up bare evidence and just send it through, mate.
Early enough, and then get your response so that at least you can plan and you know what to expect, John. That's probably the best advice. All right, so thank you so much, Mohsin. Thank you from Keshmesh. This was pretty good. Mary says it's been so helpful. Thanks a million, Mohsin. SW, thank you. This has been really helpful. For my part, thank you so much. Appreciate you being so open, so honest, sharing your story, sharing your experience. And wow, I think everyone needs to take some action on both ends. Anyone with a medical condition and also anyone that's or training or working with someone that is dyslexic. We all need that information. And I hope that we could raise more awareness and do more shows like this so that people could really get to understand and learn certain things. I mean, just finding out now, I'm not dyslexic. I don't have a medical condition, but I've never been. Now I appreciate when I go to do the exams, you don't really know what's going on with other trainees and the difficulties and the challenges. I'm just imagining you having to check your blood sugar and doing this, and then that time is not even considered. So you're actually losing time trying to do something that is not your fault, right? So all of this has to be taken into consideration. It's quite shocking as well to find out. And it's a bit disappointing, but I hope that the GPHC might maybe watch this video. Maybe the GPHC might watch this video and they may do something about that. But I don't think that time should be, that time needs to be taken off when you're doing any tests and things like that. All right, thank you all. Thank you all. Have a great evening. Thank you, man. Like Mohsin. So if you enjoyed the show, please hit the like button. Hit the like button for Mohsin. Thank you so much. And we will do more shows like this. We will get back here and we will still talk about this topic and do our best to raise awareness and to help everyone, especially all of you that are part of the family as well. Thank you for your time, Mohsin. You've been fabulous. Take care, everyone. And we will see you next week on Thursday. We have Barbara Rossi that's going to be on here. So if you don't know that, we're going to have Barbara Rossi. If you don't know who she is, please check her out on YouTube. She is a sensation. So Barbara Rossi will be here next week, Thursday, and she will be talking about entrepreneurship, about aesthetics, about business, because she's doing all these things. So it will be great. And I think someone asked, was it Keshmesh that asked for that last time? I think it was Keshmesh. Was it you, Keshmesh? Someone said, oh, Marvin, the last show I had, Mohsin, could you get my crush on here? And I'm like, what? Could you get my crush on here? And I'm like, who's your crush? And he goes, I think he said, it was either Barbara or it was Rachel Lee. It was one of them, right? I don't know. Keshmesh, was it you? Who was it? Was it you, Keshmesh? I can't remember. But someone mentioned, wow, can you get my crush? Right? So I don't know who the crush was. I don't know whether it was Barbara. I don't know whether it was Rachel, or I don't know if it was both. But the good news is I contacted both of them, and both of them will be coming to do a show with us. So that is amazing. So Keshmesh, we're going to have Barbara Rossi next week, and I'm now in talks to get Rachel Lee coming next time. So it will all be good. All good. So who's your crush, Keshmesh? Both of them. Okay, both. Right, so both of your crushes have accepted to be here live. We're going to start with the first crush on Thursday next week, and then after that, I'm going to arrange for Rachel to come on here and to speak to all of you. So thank you all. Have a great evening, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Thank you, Mohsin. You have been amazing. See you all soon. Bye.